Conor McGregor was and still kind of is the golden child of the UFC. He pretty much does and says anything he wants. Even if you have no history with the Irishman, just taking his name can land you in some serious trouble. And that's exactly what happened to Beneil Dariush after he took shots at both McGregor and Bronx. Safe to say, he isn't a huge fan. Stay tuned and we'll tell you all about it. First up, he walked right over him. Believe it or not, Beneil has actually been around in the UFC for almost 8 years now. But the fact that he's yet to face a big name is kind of disappointing. Apart from Tony Ferguson, all of Beneil's opponents aren't exactly that big of a deal at the UFC. And we're not gonna lie, we don't even know half the guys he's fought. Anyway, he was scheduled to take on Khabib-endorsed Islam Makhachev earlier this year, but had to withdraw after a terrible ankle injury. Talk about luck. Imagine getting a fight against Islam and at the very last moment, your ankle gives in. The Iranian-born American fighter also claims that he was supposed to square off against the super-talented Charles Oliveira back in 2020. But apparently, Bronx called off the fight because of some family issues. And to be fair, Beneil didn't make a big deal out of it. He handled it like a pure gentleman. But after finding out Charles had walked right over him and signed a fight against Ferguson instead of picking up from where they left off, Beneil was just furious. In a recent interview on the Fighter vs. the Writer podcast, Dariush was blowing major steam. He talked about how he told Charles family comes first, and that he shouldn't worry about pulling out of the fight. But what really got under his skin was how Oliveira started calling out Conor McGregor instead of taking care of business, even after the whole Ferguson episode. Alright, let's give this some perspective. First of all, it's literally been 2 years since all of this happened, and Beneil still isn't over it? Maybe if Benny had done something these 2 years, it would have been his name Charles was taking, not McGregor's. But we don't blame Dariush. Some guys just don't understand the fight game, and he happens to be one of them. See, if taking names and holding grudges is the only thing you can do to stay relevant, the fans will kick you out in no time. And that's probably what's going to happen after he brought up something that happened like 2 years ago. We're not saying Charles isn't wrong here, but he's still a whole lot smarter than Benny. Think about it. The Brazilian was just stripped of his lightweight title recently for missing weight, and instead of complaining about it, he's trying to land a huge money fight against the Notorious. That's what we call hustle at the UFC. So, to be honest, we're not surprised one bit that a fighter like Beneil got walked over by a goat like Oliveira. Next, we have the biggest nobody. Being called a nobody is one thing, but acting like one is completely different. And if you ask us, Beneil is acting like a total fool at this point. He's just digging himself a hole every time he opens his mouth. On the same podcast, Benny said that he understands the media and the UFC have their own thing. What he's really trying to say is that both the media and the UFC know Charles versus McGregor is the bigger fight. It'll get fans more excited. It'll bring in more money. It'll be easier to hype. What else? Do we need to say more? Thanks, Benny, for stating the obvious. Anyway, after hearing about everything Beneil had to say, McGregor decided it was time to put the man in his place. Conor took the trash out with a single tweet stating, "Beneil Dariush is the biggest nobody in the company." Ouch. That's gotta hurt. And before you guys start thinking we have something against Benny, we really don't. It's not like he isn't a good fighter or something, but unfortunately for guys like Beneil, having a good record isn't enough. You gotta be the whole package. You gotta be able to sell yourself. And all Dariush looks like is a little baby complaining about Charles not giving him a fight 2 years ago. Yeah, keep doing that, buddy. That'll get you a lot of respect in the promotion. Again, what Charles did isn't exactly right either, but do you see anybody calling him out for it? Nope. And that's because he isn't a nobody. He's a monster in his division. And now for the bigger picture. In case you forget, since Charles won his last fight against Justin Gaethje, he's entitled to a title opportunity in his next bout. So just imagine this for a second. Bronx becomes champion again, and now he's back to defending it. If Conor gets a shot at Charles, he actually has the chance to become the lightweight UFC champion all over again. Don't you think Beneil knows that? So this whole time, all of us were just thinking he complains too much. But Benny has been trying to make a move towards the lightweight title, much more clever than we thought. So that's why he's so agitated by Charles calling out Conor, because he knows if that fight happens, he'll miss his shot at the title again. We gotta hand it to Benny though, he almost had us fooled. Next, in other related news, told you so. Remember when we told you Nate Diaz doesn't really want to fight in the UFC anymore, and that he's possibly looking to box YouTuber turned boxer Jake Paul? Well, guess what? We might actually be right here. Jake Paul has just offered to fight Nate Diaz for absolutely free, but of course, there are a couple of conditions. We'll get to the conditions after afterward, but hear this first. Even boss Dana White thinks that Jake Paul is the perfect fight for Nate. And he's only saying that because the Stockton Slugger has only won one fight in the last 5 years. Anyway, he's been taking shot after shot at the UFC to either release him or give him a fight in the next 2 months. But Dana claims he's been trying to find a good opponent for Nate. You know, someone who also hasn't won a fight in the last 5 years. Alright, back to Jake's conditions. Instead of making Nate come all the way to the boxing ring, Jake's actually ready to fight him in the octagon. Yep, things just got a whole lot more exciting. We're hoping Dana actually does something to make this fight a possibility. And now, already ready? Whenever there's talk of title fights at the UFC, the first thing Dana says is that the contender doesn't have enough fights. He isn't in the top 5 yet, or he still has to fight this guy to get a shot at that guy. Everything is just so robotic. It's like talent and skill aren't even considered. Instead, you have to tick the boxes, even if it means fighting someone less skilled than you. And then you have Izzy, who thinks Alex Pereira is already ready for a title fight after only 2 appearances inside the octagon. From what we've heard so far, the last stylebender can't wait to take on Pereira inside the cage. Appearing at a UFC press conference in Australia, Adesanya completely dismissed the idea that Alex is either too inexperienced or isn't ready for a title fight. But the real deal is that Izzy was actually knocked out by Pereira at Glory of Heroes 1, and he's probably been aching to settle the scores. We're trying to imagine Israel getting knocked out, but it's kinda hard. We've never seen him on the receiving end of things. Anyway, Alex is set to take on Strickland at the same event as Izzy and Cannonier. Let's see how things play out for the longtime rivals. Finally, training really hard. Paddy once vowed that he'll never gain weight between fights, and then ballooned up to almost 200 pounds after his most recent appearance inside the octagon. Must have been some good meals, considering how quickly he gained all that weight. But after seeing his most recent post on Twitter, we just can't seem to fathom how hard this guy trains. He's looking so impressive. He's lost the majority of his weight in such a quick time as he gears up for his fight on July 23rd. And even though he has like another 45 pounds to go, we're 100% sure he's going to make weight. But the way Paddy operates between fights isn't exactly healthy. In fact, a lot of UFC fighters have advised him not to try such harsh weight cuts, because they'll come slamming down on his body after being in the fight game for a couple of more years. Anyway, despite putting his body through so much, we still think Paddy will come out victorious against Jordan Leavitt. That's it from our side, folks. So, what do you think? Will Benny ever get a shot at Oliveira? Or is Conor right about him being the biggest nobody in the promotion? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Remember, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more exciting videos in the future. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.